Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. My apologies. Sorry about that. Try that again. Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm it is 4 p.m. and we are live streaming and recording your meeting.
Okay, thank you. So this is a meeting of the Town of Pelham Committee of Adjustment on January 12th, 2026. I'm going to call the meeting to order. There's quorum present of the members. Ms. Secretary Treasurer, would you please begin with the reading of the land recognition statement?
Of course.
Thank you.
The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Ha-de-Wenderonk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples. Through you, Mr. Chair, you may proceed with your introduction.
Okay, thank you. We have three members of the committee here today. We have John Kappa, Sue Sarko, and myself, Isaiah Bannock. This is a hybrid hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present and viewing at home via live stream will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed should an application be refused. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The purpose of the application relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the application. During the public portion of each application, we will hear from anyone wishing to submit verbal comments or submit a written comment via email to clerks@pelham.ca. Comments received following the public portion will not be considered. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions may be determined by the committee following the hearing. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant and agent and members of the public that have submitted comments. Notices of decision can also be obtained by request to the Secretary Treasurer. Committee members are asked to raise your hand if you would like to speak and vote. Applicants, agents, attendees are advised that they're free to leave the webinar or the room once a decision has been made on their application. Okay, let's move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Go ahead.
Motion to approve?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Next item is pecuniary interest. Does any member of this panel have a pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing?
I have none.
I also have none.
And none from me. All right, we are on to any withdrawals or adjournment. Do we have any requests
Mr.
for withdrawal
Chair.
adjournment?
Sorry. Mr. Chair, there have not been any requests for withdrawal or adjournment.
Okay, very good. So we're on to the first application. So there's two categories of applications tonight, although the second one is grouped. The first one that we're going to hear about is relating to Swan Avenue, and then we will to speak to the lookout matter. In terms of kind of procedure, Secretary Treasurer Ms. Conti will go through a presentation. Then we'll have an opportunity to hear from the applicant. If the applicant would like to speak, they're welcome to speak. Anyone in support of the application is also welcome to speak at that time. After that, anyone in opposition or anyone with additional comments can then speak as well to this committee. After that kind of portion is done, we will close the public portion of the meeting. The committee will debate and will make a decision, and then we'll move to the next item. So that's just how we'll proceed in terms of process. Okay, with that, happy to turn to the first application.
Thank you. Alex is just going to share that presentation. Perfect. So Committee of Adjustment hearing for January 12th, 2026. The Town of Pelham is holding hybrid Committee of Adjustment hearings A hybrid hearing involves a mixture of in-person and remote attendance and participation. The following presentations are based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. Please note that no decisions have been made prior to this public hearing. All comments received from commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration and will appear summarized on the slides to follow. Decorum. The Committee of Adjustment is a formal public hearing requiring decorum. All comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak virtually or are participating in person, you will be given an opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If someone ahead of you has made the same comments you wish to make, there is no need to repeat. Please keep all comments concise. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Note that comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they are not considered. Inappropriate comments will not be tolerated. If decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons will be asked to leave. So our first file this afternoon is file A1-2026P for 79 Swan Avenue. The subject land is located on a curve in the roadway on the north side of Swan Avenue, being Lot 116, Plan 59M 505, known as 79 Swan Avenue in the town of Pelham. The application seeks relief from Section 10 exceptions, R2-95, for Section 3 encroachment, to permit an unenclosed covered porch to encroach 3.95 meters from the required rear yard, whereas the bylaw allows a minimum rear yard encroachment of 4.5 meters. Section 10 exceptions, R2-95, lot coverage, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 55.5%, whereas the bylaw requires a maximum of 50%. Again, Section 10 exceptions, R2-95, for the maximum front yard, to permit a maximum front yard setback to the dwelling front face of 7.1 meters, whereas the bylaw allows a maximum of 5.5 meters. To date, the following comments have been received from both the Building Department and Public Works. Refer to the conditions, and no public comments were received at the time of writing the planning report. So minor variance test 1, the variance is minor in nature. Again, for all sections, Section 10 exceptions, R2-95, relating to Section 3 encroachment, yes, the unenclosed covered porch represents a minimal encroachment that does not materially increase building mass or negatively affect rear yard amenity space or privacy. For lot coverage, yes, the proposed increase in lot coverage is minor and limited to a rear covered deck. It does not materially affect the dwelling scale, streetscape, or drainage, and is generally consistent with neighborhood lot coverage patterns. For the maximum front yard, yes, the increased front yard setback results from the irregular lot frontage, is necessary for appropriate siting of the dwelling, and will have minimal impact on the streetscape while maintaining sufficient development lot area. Test 2, is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? For Section 3 encroachment, yes, the unenclosed porch provides functional outdoor living space that is compatible with surrounding residential uses and enhances the usability of the dwelling without adverse impacts. For lot coverage, yes, the modest increase in lot coverage facilitates a rear covered deck that improves functional outdoor amenity space while maintaining neighborhood character and appropriate drainage and landscaping. For the maximum front yard, yes, it responds to the irregular lot frontage and enables appropriate siting of the dwelling, including a functional driveway layout, safe vehicle maneuvering, and clear separation between the garage and dwelling facade. Test 3, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? For Section 3 encroachment, yes. The unenclosed covered porch is a minor encroachment into the rear yard, has minimal massing, and aligns with the bylaw's intent to permit minor projections without adverse impacts. For lot coverage, yes. The increase in lot coverage is minor and limited to a rear covered deck, does not affect the dwelling scale or neighborhood character, maintains adequate rear yard amenity, and is not expected to result in visual or drainage impacts, with drainage addressed through a recommended grading and drainage plan. For the maximum front yard, yes, it enables proper siting of the dwelling on an irregular lot. The increased front yard setback supports functional driveway design, ensures the garage remains set back further than the dwelling face, and maintains appropriate side yard setbacks without detracting from the streetscape or overall built form intent. Test 4. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Yes. The requested variances are not considered to have significant impacts within the context of the official plan policies. The variances are not anticipated to have significant impacts on the massing of the dwelling or on the surrounding streetscape, and as such maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Based on the analysis, staff is of the opinion the variances are minor in nature, conform to the general policies and intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is appropriate for the development and use of the land. Planning staff recommend that application number A1-2026P be approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant, 1, obtain all necessary building permits prior to construction commencing to the satisfaction of the chief building official. 2, submit a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan for the parcel demonstrating that the drainage neither relies on nor negatively impacts neighboring properties, and that all drainage will be contained within the respective lot. Grading plans are to be signed by a qualified professional engineer or an Ontario land surveyor. And condition 3, obtain approval for a driveway access and culvert permit, as applicable, issued through Public Works Department to town standards, and the applicant is to bear cost associated with these works. So through you, Mr. Chair, the agent is with us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grow. Okay, so, sorry, just on the wrong set of pages here. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we'll start, we could welcome the agent to come up and speak to us, and the committee can respond to any comments or questions there. Thank you, and please start with your name.
Good evening. My name is Matt Martanen. I'm from Mountain View Building Group. I'm representing the purchasers here today who are also with us. And we don't have a presentation tonight, but we do agree with the staff recommendation, and we're here to answer any questions that may arise.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
I have none.
I just have one question. I'm looking at it, and basically being on the curve, just so I got it straight in my head, the idea is to set the house back a little bit further so it's not in front of the side house, right? And then because of that, you're short in the backyard, so you need that extra, I guess it's almost like 1.5 feet, right? I mean, it's quite minimal.
Lights turn.
There we
go. Through the chair, that's correct. It's on a little bit of an irregular lot. So what we've done in order to have adequate driveway space, we've shifted the lot or the house a little bit back on the lot. But there's also a little bit of a covered porch that encroaches into the rear yard. It's just for additional amenity for the purchasers. So between those two things, you end up with a couple of minor variances.
Okay. That's it. Thanks for me.
I don't have any questions, so yeah, appreciate your time coming here. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to, or that would like to speak to this matter? It doesn't look like it. Is there anybody online?
So, Mr. Chair, I can confirm it is 4:14 PM, and we have not received any emails, and therefore we would be looking for a motion to close the public portion and move to committee input.
Okay, that sounds good, but I just want to double check the room one more time that nobody else is here to speak to this matter. It doesn't look like it. Okay, ready for a motion then to close the public portion?
Yeah, motion to close the public portion of this application.
I second.
Okay, so that closes the public portion. Any comment from the committee? No, not looking like a lot of comments. All right, I don't have anything kind of material to comment on. I did review the application carefully, considered the variances, particularly in the context of where the lot is, being on the curve of a street and being adjacent to, on two sides to non-developable features, and what the impacts would be from having the covered porch and the additional kind of front yard setback. And in my view, it does meet the four tests. I appreciate staff's comments relating to that as well. So in my view, it satisfies those tests, and I'm happy to support the variances for that reason. Okay, unless there's comments on my comments, are we ready to vote, or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I vote in favor.
Yes.
Okay, and likewise, and I think we'll want to read the motion as well. So I'm happy to,
File A1, 2026, 79 Swan Avenue. Applications are made for a minor variance of an enclosed covered porch to encroach 9.5 meters from the required rear yard, maximum lot coverage 55.5%, maximum front yard setback to the dwelling front face of 7.1 meters. The application has been granted. The reasons are as follows. The variances are minor in nature as the porch encroachment is minimal and there is no significant increase in massing or no impacts to the rear yard, amenity, space, or privacy. The lot coverage increase is modest related to the covered deck with no adverse impacts on massing, streetscape, or drainage, and consistent with neighborhood patterns. And the irregular frontage has minimal streetscape impact and a sufficient lot area remains, and variance is driven by the curved lot frontage. Number 2, intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. Number 3, the intent of the official plan is maintained. Number 4, the proposals are desirable for the land as the porch provides functional outdoor space compatible with neighbors, enhancing the dwelling and amenity use. The lot coverage and deck have no negative impacts on the character, drainage, or landscaping. And the front yard setback accommodates the irregular frontage, allows proper drainage, siting, functional driveway, safe vehicle movement, and the separation between the garage and facade. The application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. Number 6, the Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act tests for minor variance. The conditions that will apply, that all necessary building permits are obtained prior to construction commencing to the satisfaction of the chief building official. Number 2, submit a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that the drainage neither relies nor negatively impacts neighboring properties and will be contained within the respective lot to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works or designate. Number 3, obtain approval for driveway access and culvert permit as applicable, issued through Public Works Department to town standards. The applicant shall bear all the costs associated with these works.
okay, and I'll second that. And do we need a further vote? Yeah, okay, so I think we did our vote out of order. So another vote on that motion.
Yes, I vote in favor.
Yes.
And yes, from me as well. Okay, so that's granted, and that concludes the matter relating to Swan Avenue. So we'll move on to Lookout.
You're on Candy Cam.
This is a start tonight. Are you good if we move on? We're gonna do the two consents, and then the decision, and then the two.
Maybe I'll just identify that.
Sure.
Okay, in a moment, Ms. LaGros will go through the presentation, but just to provide some clarity on how we're going to proceed, there's one related application in 4 parts for a 1617 Lookout Street. So how this will proceed is the 2 related consent applications will proceed together, and there will be a public portion of the meeting and a vote on that. And then, depending on the decision of that, we'll then proceed with the committee portion, sorry, the variance portion. So then that will be decided after the consent. So just in terms of the order of what needs to be looked at or approved or not approved before the other, that's why it's being organized that way. So is there 2 separate presentations?
There will
There's
be.
2, just, okay, so the first part will be the consent presentation, and then we'll proceed through the variances after that. And with that, in your hands.
Perfect. Okay, so with that, we do have the application for the 2 consents for files B1 2026P and B2 2026P. Both of these relate to 1617 Lookout Street. Application B1 2026, application is made for consent to partial discharge of mortgage and consent to convey 742.1 square meters, being identified as Part 1 on the sketch. For file B2 2026P, application is made for consent to partial discharge of mortgage and consent to convey 742.1 square meters, being identified as Part 2 on the sketch. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department. All necessary building permits are to be obtained prior to demolition or construction commencing to the satisfaction of the CBO. Public Works, we're going to refer to the conditions. Niagara Region. Regional staff recommend including warning clauses in the development agreement to inform future owners or tenants of potential impacts from nearby industrial lands, and the recommended warning clause notes possible noise, odor, and dust effects due to proximity to industrial uses. The Woodland Enhancement Plan by LCA Environmental in December 2025 has been reviewed and meets Niagara official plan requirements, and regional staff recommend the approved Woodland Enhancement Plan be implemented through a development agreement for the retained lands, being Part 3, following construction, and that the Woodland Enhancement Plan be implemented by the landowner to the satisfaction of the town. Subject to these conditions, regional staff have no objections to the proposed consent and minor variance applications. MPCA. Mapping shows adjacent hazard slopes affecting the northern and northeastern portion of the retained lands, which is Part 3. The proposed lots, being Parts 1 and 2 along Lookout Street, are outside the regulated area. Any future works within the retained lands, Part 3, will require MPCA review and may require permits prior to construction. No public comments were received at the time of writing the planning report. Planning staff are of the opinion that the 2 proposed consents are consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms with provincial, regional, and local plans, and are appropriate for the development and use of the land, and should be approved subject to the recommended conditions. Planning staff recommend that application numbers B1 2026P and B2 2026P be approved subject to the following conditions: that the applicant individually service parts 1, 2, and 3 with their own sanitary and water connections, and that a temporary works permit be obtained through the town at the applicant's expense, and to provide local cards upon completion. Obtain driveway access and culvert permits from the town for the construction of a new driveway or any modifications to the existing driveways or entrances at the applicant's expense. Confirm that no existing utilities cross the proposed new property lines. If so, the applicant will be responsible for costs associated with relocation or removal. Submit overall lot grading and drainage plans to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Conform with the town's tree maintenance policy should the removal of a town-owned tree be required. Enter into a development agreement with the town to implement the servicing strategy to the site to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Execute the town's memorandum of understanding confirming payment of development charges and parkland cash in lieu. Enter into a development agreement including a warning clause regarding potential noise, odor, and dust from nearby industrial uses. Enter into a development agreement to implement all recommendations of the environmental impact study and woodland enhancement plan. Register a clause on title for Part 3 requiring implementation of the approved woodland enhancement plan following construction. Remove unnecessary portions of the existing asphalt driveway and parking areas on both Parts 1 and 2. Obtain demolition permits and remove the existing detached garage to the satisfaction of the CBO. Decommission the existing private septic system on the retained lot, which is Part 3, through a permit with the region's Public Works Department. Obtain development permits from the Niagara Escarpment Commission for the proposed development. Provide a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for use in the issuance of the certificates of consent. And provide a final certification fee for each file in the amount of $454 each. And Mr. Chair, we do have the agent, Mr. Matt Kernahan, with us this evening.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kernahan.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, staff, member of the public. My name is Matt Kernahan, and I represent the owners of 1617 Lookout Street. As you've heard, staff have done an absolutely stellar job of summarizing the facts of this application, so I'm not going to duplicate their efforts this afternoon. I will say that I've had the opportunity to review the staff report with my client and can confirm that they are in total agreement with the positive recommendation and all of the 16 or so conditions of approval. While there are perhaps more than the usual amount of conditions, the applicant is committed to executing on them and satisfying the town with respect to them. I would have ordinarily concluded at this time, but I did receive some late arriving comments just before this meeting began, so I'm going to do my best to address them to the extent that I can. So there were a number of comments that you'll hear regarding the lot configuration and its consistency with the character of the neighborhood. What I'll say is that I agree with staff that what's being proposed here is consistent with other recent development along this street, and save and except for the reduced lot depth compared to those other lots, it is very consistent. The reduced lot depth, I will say, was done deliberately to avoid the removal of trees in the woodlot that's located in the rear of the remnant parcel. As far as the intentions for Part 3, what I can tell you is that the owners are committed to staying at this location for the foreseeable future. They hope to use some of the proceeds of the sale of the lots to improve upon the existing dwelling, in particular some landscaping and possibly some fencing surrounding the house. There were a couple of questions regarding water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, and proposed road upgrades, as well as electrical upgrades. As you've heard, town staff have imposed a condition of approval that require that the applicant enter into a development agreement with the town prior to the severances being finalized. We have already completed a preliminary design of these infrastructure services and done some preliminary consultation with the Infrastructure Services Department. We will be entering into a development agreement and posting securities to ensure that the town is satisfied with respect to those upgrades before the lots actually are created. There was a question regarding a comprehensive tree survey. As you'll have heard, a comprehensive tree survey was done. Trees that need removal in order to implement the development concept were identified. And in compensation for the removal of those 6 trees, a woodland enhancement plan has been proposed that will be implemented on the retained parcel. And there's a clause or a condition proposed that will ensure that that's implemented through a development agreement. I'll leave it there for now and open myself to questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kernahan. Any questions from the committee?
I'm good. I just happened to read this when we got in here today, just to kind of, when I made a point of highlighting which ones we hadn't dealt with yet, but it looks like the town has kind of covered the majority of those concerns in one way or another. So no, I have no more questions. I'm fine, thanks.
I have none.
Yeah, I have a couple of very kind of technical questions that I wanted to ask about, but before that, I appreciate the direction provided on the comments that were received now. What I'm going to suggest as well is next we'll hear from Mr. Thiessen, I think it was in the room, and then I'll invite you to come back up, Mr. Kernahan, just to respond to anything new that was raised. So I did want to provide that opportunity. As well, and for the committee to come back to anything that's fresh that we wanted to talk about. We want to make sure that we understand all the issues and have spoken about them and addressed them in fairness to making sure the committee has all the information, in fairness to the applicant, to yourself as well. So just in terms of kind of a very kind of particular comment, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Kernahan, and the same question to staff. I didn't see a specific comment on no negative impact to the ANSI under the PPS policy, and I understand there's the same policy that deals with the natural heritage system, which was covered in the EIS that was provided. The test also requires that of the ANSI, and I take it that's your opinion and staff's opinion that there's no negative impact on the ANSI as a result of the application, but I just wanted to check that because it's something sensitive to me and I wanted to make sure it was covered, maybe indirectly.
I appreciate that. I'm happy to start the answer to the question and perhaps hand it over to staff. The location of the ANSI corresponds with the slope that's located in the western portion of or northeastern portion of the property. The 2 lots which are proposed are a significant distance setback from that feature. No tree removal is proposed anywhere near that location. No grading or construction is proposed anywhere near that location. So with the location of that ANSI in mind, we prepared an EIS that was done, environmental impact study that was done in consultation with the region. And in fact, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority indicated that we were so far away from that feature that they didn't have any interest in the application. So I am satisfied that we will not have an impact on that feature.
I appreciate those comments. Want to ask the same question of staff, Ms. Thorock.
Similarly, I can confirm that the area that is the subject of the law creation is currently a front yard for an existing residential use. It doesn't contain the significant ANSI feature, that is the northeast corner, the slope, the significant woodland, and these lots are a fair distance away from that feature to ensure that there is no negative impact.
Okay, appreciate that clarification from both of you. Thank you. I do have some other questions, but I wanted to ask the committee if there's any comment or question based on that. comment.
That's a great question, because I didn't bring that into view until you had mentioned it, so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, appreciate that. I do have another question, also a little bit on the technical kind of planning side, but I wanted to check as well. The aggregate operation that's somewhat in proximity, that's also somewhat referenced in the materials, being the Lafarge kind of quarry or aggregate operation. So that's a major facility under the PPS, and therefore requires any application to minimize and mitigate any adverse impacts from that as well, somewhat similar to the discussion we had. And I saw the region had or recommended, or maybe it came from the town, kind of a warning clause to be registered on title relating to that. But I wanted to ask a bit of a different question, which I presume is included, but again, wanted to check that was something that was considered. In other words, that the planners are satisfied that there isn't, that the long-term impact has been mitigated or will be mitigated through this application of the major facility.
Sure, Mr. Chair. That facility is located on the upper end of the distance away from this application that we would even have to consider it. I believe it's 900 plus meters from that location. Also, between where these lots are being created and that operation, there's a number of sensitive receptors that are more impacted than these lots would be. So from a planning perspective, my opinion would be that the warning clause is satisfactory to address that unlikely impact.
Thank you, appreciate that. Ms. LaRocque, any comment on that, on what I've asked? Mr. Kernahan's
Mr.
pointed
Chair.
out, yeah, thank you.
Yep. So the quarry operation, it is a fair distance away from this property. This property already contains residential use, so there's already that potential for a conflict. But these applications don't introduce new, more sensitive use. And in addition, there are a number of residential uses that are closer to the quarry operation. As a result, we're satisfied that the warning clause that will be included in the development agreement will deal with the impacts to meet the requirements of the PPS.
Okay, thank you. This is a sensitive topic for me, unrelated, so that's why I raise it, but I drew my eye to it. So thank you for those comments. Any questions or comments based on my my questions? Okay. I have one other kind of comment, but actually I'm going to save it. It's really, I think, just more for staff. It's very technical. So nothing else from me, and thank you for the indulgence with the nature of my questions. Anything else just before we ask Mr. Kernahan to sit down for now? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just getting my notes. Mr. Thiessen, you're welcome to, is it Thiessen? You're welcome to come up. Yeah, thank you.
How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
So because he's all
Sorry, Mr. Thiessen, just to interrupt. Does the mic, is it a mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to turn on the mic there. The light, I think the light goes on the top when it's on.
There
okay.
you got
There you
it.
go.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
So, and I believe my neighbor is also professional because I think he works for the town of Fort Erie. So, my name's Ed Thiessen, and I live at 1621 Lookout Street. Maybe some of you are familiar with my home that I renovated there, finished renovating in 2020. That home where I live was built in 1928, and I spent considerable effort renovating it and bringing it up to modern standards, and I think it looks nice there. It just kind of indicates that we have a long-term commitment to the neighborhood, and I think we did a nice job there, and I believe all my neighbors are happy with that property. I grew up in Fenwick. I went to Yale Crosley, went to Niagara College. I spent most of my working career in Southeast Asia, so I was gone up until 2015, and we decided to move back to Pelham. That's where I'm from. I grew up on Falls Road. We became aware of this development on December 6th, in your December 16th mailing, and I didn't know anything about it before that. I had no idea what was going on. Your mailing arrived, I think, around Christmas time. We have snail mail these days, so I think your interval from sending something to getting a reply should be extended, because with the current postal system set up, I think 3, even 4 weeks is probably not long enough. I received the NEC document on January 1st. It was mailed out on the 18th, and it was posted on the 18th, that is, but showed up my mailbox on January 1st, and comments to them were due on January 2nd. So anyways, I got some comments in. We really don't believe that having 2 small parcels there fits with the neighborhood. You used the word, I can't remember what were the words used, compatible with the neighborhood, or you have a word for it. You guys used it earlier on that other property, Swan. I don't think it fits with the neighborhood. I mean, if you go to the Mountain View properties, you have a very consistent size and lot size in the Mountain View residences on the north side of Marlene Stewart, and then you have the townhouses and the smaller properties on the south side. So you've got a consistent set of property rules going on in that development. So I think that having these 2 small properties here is going to be incompatible with what we have going between 1613 and 1611 and my property. So I think they're kind of small and they don't fit. Probably going to impact our property values in that neighborhood. I was given a quote in 2019 from the town of $50,000 plus or minus 50% to bring water to my property. That was in 2019. I would assume it's a lot higher now. I think sewer is going to be a very significant cost. And building 2 small properties, there's no way to put a septic system or a cistern on those properties. It would be much better to have 1 property where you could fit that kind of stuff in and avoid all that infrastructure cost. Just, divide the property in half, put a house on it that's compatible with the neighborhood, and then, put a cistern and a septic on it. Try. And avoid all those infrastructure costs. I mean, the town water pressure leading up to that area is already kind of low. We're going to put a new water tower in, I assume. I don't know if it's going to go ahead or not, but so I'm wondering if it's actually a financially viable project. The developer is also going to have to pay capital gains, I believe, on the second property he sells there. In the 1611, 1613 property development, one of the partners in that development had to pay capital gains on the second property that he sold. And, it was a considerable burden. And he said, well, if I would have sold 1 property, I would have basically had the same return on my investment. In this case, it's going to be a much bigger burden because it's 2 small properties. And he's also got the burden of all this infrastructure cost. We think that just looking at this, for example, it's an L-shaped property that's going to be part 3, which I saw up there. I know somebody has an L-shaped property, is behind somebody else's house, and you get a dispute between property owners because they build a shed or something, or they build a high fence, and then the town has to deal with it because it becomes an issue for your bylaw people and maybe police. Maybe my neighbors sell the property to somebody who isn't quite as friendly as the current neighbors, and they do things that cause headaches for the town. So L-shaped properties to me are a problem, and would be much better if it was two properties side by side that were compatible and, you know, fit the character of the current Lookout Street housing. The water infrastructure to 1613 is not there. It dead ends. It dead ends at the Bell property, and I heard that, and you can see, I think weekly or monthly, the town has to come drain the fire hydrant there because the water is stagnant in that line. If you extend that to 1617 without having a loop, you're going to have the same problem. That's probably why I was given what I thought was a high price for putting 100 meters of water line in. So I don't know if you guys have considered all that water infrastructure that they're going to need. The sewer, oh, by the way, I was just wondering, is the developer paying for the study to implement that water line and paying for the cost of developing the new water line and the loops and whatever else is required? Same for the sewer. The sewer dead ends at 1613. To bring that all the way up the street to 1617, that's going to be a considerable expense. I find it hard to believe they're going to make money on this development, considering you have 100 meters or 150 meters of Bell property there to go in front of. At 1611, 1613 Lookout, the developer installed brand new roads, curbs, drains, underground power, street lights, trees, new sidewalks. This property development, I would ask, is it going to be consistent with what was done earlier, 1611 to 1613 Lookout? So we have a consistent property development. I don't know how it works, but you know, you guys could agree to split these properties off, and what if the developer decides to sell the properties and doesn't do the infrastructure upgrades? Then who's going to be the town? Does they have to provide a bond or some kind of security to ensure that these upgrades are implemented? I don't know how it works, so maybe you could let me know. I've seen some talk about conservation area. Mountain View sold 4 or 5 meters of property at the rear of what they call Part 3 to Steve, who used to live there, for $1. It was very nicely, because the shed was over the line. And so as far as I'm concerned, those 3 or 4 meters are in the conservation zone, and they must be needing a permit for that. It makes sense that Conservation Authority has to have some say in this. I've heard that they don't, do they? No. Anyway. We heard that there was a tree survey done. It doesn't include the trees behind the house, the survey that I've seen, and I would suggest that the tree survey for all the trees on the property, include those that were trimmed earlier in 2025, should be included in the proposed development. So I'm not agreeing with any discussions here that says that these two parcels are consistent with the neighborhood. As an alternative, I think property better suited if it was split down the middle, and you put a house on that property, which I think would make just as much money for the owner. A larger house which fits with the neighborhood, fits with the kind of houses that were built between 1611 and 1613 Lookout. I think there would be sufficient room on that property for a septic. I don't think the tree removal will be any different than it is now. That would, by having split in 2 rather than 3, I think that would reduce the infrastructure costs lower the risk for the town. Won't have any impact on the property values for the neighborhood, and be more viable for the developer. Actually, I don't know if the developer considered capital gains impact on this development. It would also be more acceptable to the neighborhood. I've talked to some of the neighbors, but not all of them. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Mr. Thiessen. It's very helpful to hear from someone who's right next door and who has knowledge of, the immediate area and the neighborhood, and to hear your views on that. So I appreciate that very much. And maybe I'll start with the committee if there's any questions, comments based on what was raised.
No, I don't have any questions for Mr. Thiessen. Thank you very much for your comments, though. It really did kind of bring to light some areas that I hadn't considered. Thank you.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I will just perhaps make kind of one comment, and then I want to hear from Mr. Kernahan to address some of the things raised, because I did have some thoughts, and likely the members of the committee also have comments based on what you raised as well. But I just really kind of wanted to know one thing. So there was a lot of, there's information about your views of compatibility of the neighborhood, about why there should be, 2 lots instead of 3. Very helpful comments. This committee considers the consent based on the tests under the Planning Act. There's a section of the Planning Act, and you look at the official plan and you make an assessment on that basis. One thing that this committee can't do is look at the financial side of things. So whether there's capital gains, what tax implications there may be, whether 2 lots is more cost efficient than 3 lots, that's not something the committee looks at. That's a financial decision made by the applicant. They can ask for whatever they want, whether it makes money or not. So I just wanted to kind of point out that in terms of our role as the committee.
Will it be noted in the minutes anyways?
Well, there's a record of me saying this, and we can add to the minutes. Yeah,
It's,
yeah, we can.
I mean, the owner next door, I mean, I know the 1613 homeowner, or 1611 was it? He didn't know that, and when they developed those properties, and it was a big surprise to him, and, so really, him splitting off 2 properties was really not worth it, plus he had to spend a lot of money on development costs, and so, something for the neighbor to consider.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And frankly, every project's different. There's different reasons why people make decisions. Different years mean different things, in terms of costs and everything else. But that's not something the committee, again, kind of looks at. We were not allowed. We have to look at what does the Planning Act allow us to make a decision based on. And a number of things you highlighted do just that. And that's what I want to hear more from. But in terms of, capital gain impacts or tax implications, we can't assess that. So I just wanted to point that out, but I don't want to take away from the balance of your comments, which are very helpful. And I want to hear from, I want to ask, I suppose, again, if there's any other, because we're going to ask Mr. Kernahan next to hear from him, but there won't be an opportunity for you to return after that. So the committee will go into debate after that. But I did want to give you a chance if there's anything you want to add now.
Just, I don't hear any response about what kind of security the developer has to put on to make sure that he follows through on all of his commitments. I don't know how that works. Maybe
Sure, and I can answer that. And
is there significant security required, or is it just a $500 fee?
No, that's a different fee. That's a fee that's on security. I'll let the town add to what I'm going to say. And I should also add that I did take careful notes, and I'll be commenting and answering on some of your questions in the next part as well. But in terms of this part, because I want to leave that out, okay. There are development agreements. There's a whole number of development agreements, among other things. The town does take security for things like building the infrastructure. There'll also be a series of agreements that will have clauses that will obligate the developer. So the town does what it can, speaking on behalf of the town here, to not be on the hook for these kinds of things, and for others to not be on the hook for that. So I'll let the town. Sorry, let me finish, and then I'll invite the town to speak, and you're welcome to respond after that. But that's at least the development process to my knowledge, and I wanted to invite Ms. LaRocque or Mr. Edwards to add to that, because I just summarized it. It might not have been a complete answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify, the developer will be, have to enter into development agreement with the town and will be responsible for 100% of the cost to extend the services down to these lots. So the servicing will have to be to the existing lot. So with the existing dwelling, they'll have to decommission the septic system and fully connect it to town services, and then also for the 2 new lots. So it's 100% developer responsibility. The town doesn't pay for that. And we will take a security, and the security is for work that's being done within the town's road allowance. It's 100% of the cost that we will hold on to until it's inspected and it's satisfactory. And then at that point, we'll release it.
And the road upgrades and the sidewalk and the lights and trees and all that as well?
Yeah, the road upgrades, through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. The road upgrades are included in the town's development charge study. So what happens is we collect fees on new development permits, so building permits, and those will help for the town to upgrade the road from a rural service to an urban service.
So did the town pay for the upgrades between 1611 and 1613?
The town is paying for a portion of it, but it's the portion that is collected through development charges. So it's not coming from the tax levy.
$450, that's the development charge?
No.
I'm just going to, I'll step in here, and you're welcome to direct your questions through the chair rather than through staff, although I invite the continued dialogue here. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's, it's just, just describing it for you as well. So what Ms. LaRocque is describing is there's kind of 2 ways that infrastructure, well, many ways, but 2 main ways that infrastructure gets paid for. There's something kind of direct, which is happening mostly in this case, which is agreements, money that goes directly to the town, or there's a system of pooled money through development charges, which is you pay a fee for new houses and other types of stuff that's quite complicated, but there's an amount that gets paid that goes into a municipality for all new housing called development charges. So what Ms. LaRocque is describing is that some of the money is coming from that pool for some items, but other items are coming as a direct payment from the developer. And the town, and sorry, one more comment on this as well is I do have confidence that the town has satisfied themselves. They would not be in a position recommending conditions if they weren't confident that they've lined everything up. So you hear from all their staff, from the building group, from engineering. I've looked a little bit at the schedules for the payment of works and all the items that were provided, all the items that need to be provided in terms of the sewers and the road and everything for this project. The town looks at that, and the engineer looks at that, and then they'll enter into an agreement kind of for this purpose. So I'm just describing the process to help, for your kind of, for your understanding of how it works.
Why wouldn't all that be made public to the neighborhood so that we could review that coming here? It's not, I've made comments here, and a lot of it is maybe a waste of time on my part because I don't know all of those plans that were made for upgrading the sewer. If they've hired a consultant to do all that work, maybe it would be nice to share that with the public, with the neighborhood. Maybe it is available on the web somewhere, but I have no clue how to do that. I received a document at Christmas time, so it's pretty hard to call anybody up either at the town to discuss anything. I called the NEC. I couldn't discuss anything because they were all out on holidays too, up until after the 2nd. So, just seems that it would be nice to, well, I didn't hear from the neighbors, so it'd be nice for the town at least to inform the people within a certain radius of what exactly is going on. It's quite a significant upgrade to the infrastructure there that's needed.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Why isn't that done?
Well, I think to an extent it is, and to an extent it isn't.
There's zero in this document.
So the public.
Even the Swan document seemed to be.
So the reports that are available the report, the public report that's available has a discussion of the infrastructure that will be improved, and the conditions talk about that. But I appreciate your comment, which is about the details aren't provided, the specifics aren't provided. And I know some municipalities, well, maybe I'll leave it to Ms. LaRocque to comment further on that. But, you know, I think in a loose sense, knowledge that the road will be upgraded and the infrastructure will be put in, I mean, that's available in the public materials, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, but not in the mailing. So you're saying that anybody in the neighborhood is going to have to go and do a lot of research to try to find this kind of detail. I mean, I don't know. Where would I find it? The documents I have don't refer to, please check. Please go here and have a look at that. Here's what's being proposed. And we don't see that kind of documentation. So why don't we do that?
Okay, maybe you go ahead, rather than me comment on the next part of it.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, just one point here. Was it posted? Was it posted? Was there posting on the property? Okay.
Oh,
So-
that's different? That has different information than the mailing?
Well, what it does, it gives you access to what else is going on with that property, right? Especially online. So,
Where does it say that on these documents?
no, the sign says it right on the property, like when you drove by.
On these documents, wouldn't that be,
Well, they wouldn't have known that at the time, right? So they're,
that posting was basically installed at the same
Right.
time this was sent out?
so here's the thing.
Okay.
You were notified with the letter. So exactly what you're
Letter
disputing.
what?
So if I may speak for a moment, is that okay? Can I have the floor just for a moment? And I understand there's a little bit of frustration here. It's perfectly clear, it's your neighborhood, been there, you just came back to retire, and this is happening. I understand all that. But severing properties like this is not something that we just started a little while ago, okay? The process that the town has been going through has been happening with all the developments in the area, right? And so we're trying to do our very best to inform the public, make sure that, you know, our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. It's quite a process, as you can see, right? Just to get variances kind of approved. So in terms of information, of course, there's always more the town can do to inform you, but at some point, it has to also be efficient. So the sign, the letter that says there's something going on, now you can look into it, right? You have time to look into it.
Don't get it. Why not just put it in here? What's on that sign?
Well, it could be privacy issues. It could be all kinds of legal ramifications that the town.
Get to 3 or 4 properties. It's not
No, but
Okay.
that's,
this document.
I'm just gonna, I think, I don't know if we're being productive anymore with the discussion. I appreciate the concern that you didn't have the information. I think there's a reasonable comment that you weren't aware of some of the details. So I appreciate that. I just want to make sure we're not straying too far from the issues. And I think you've raised good issues. I want to come back to those as well. And I take your point that you were seeking more information that wasn't available early.
You've got a bunch of documents here. I still have no clue what all this means, okay? You've got the B26P, all of the wording is identical on all of these. Why not just summarize it in one concise document and include the details of what's going on here? You've made it impossible for somebody like me to review and even comment on it by, number one, sending it out a week before Christmas, and I had some heart problems too before Christmas, so I had very limited time for the neighborhood to review these kind of things. And it almost feels like a fait accompli, you know, that's coming up. So anyways, I'll stop there, I guess, and let you guys continue. Thanks for your time.
Okay, and I do appreciate those comments, and I also appreciate that it's, you know, it's written in a bit of a technical way. So I take your point that some of us are
Stick it into
used to, yeah, well, there's issues with that, believe me, I've looked at that a lot. But you do have to follow a certain process, and for example, if we were to provide you all the material, you'd probably have 1,000 pages of very complicated stuff that may not be helpful either. So the committee is trying to find a balance, and they're also restricted by the Planning Act. There's a timeline when you have to circulate notice. There's a timeline to finalize the reports. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, I understand. I don't see any web address here where I could actually look at all of the plans for these properties.
Okay.
If you
Well, we appreciate your.
could point that out to me, I'd appreciate it. Tell me where.
Yeah, well, I know the Committee of Adjustment website does have materials, and this meeting has an agenda that's available. It's online.
Thank you.
Okay, and I appreciate your comments, and there were some very good comments, and I don't want to, I know we went down a path with that, but I did want to come back to some of the other compatibility comments as well. As I mentioned, there won't be another opportunity to speak because we have a specific order again for decorum. I wanted to invite Mr. Kernahan to respond to anything. Sorry, actually, but before I do that, I know you started. Is there anything else the committee wants to address before that?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. So then I want to hear from Mr. Kernahan and then the committee and maybe some questions as well, and then we'll close the public portion of the meeting unless there's someone online, which we'll check as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to take up much more of your time providing clarification that already has been provided, but one thing I did want to mention with respect to the size and the configuration of the lots is that the proposed lots and the existing dwelling are all in the urban area. So when you're going through a planning process, the town requires that these lots be serviced with municipal services. We wouldn't be permitted to put a septic system or new septic system or new cistern on these new lots. And in fact, the town is requiring that the existing private services that service the existing dwelling be decommissioned. So with respect to creating large lots to accommodate a septic system, that's not something that we would be permitted to do. The lots as proposed are, for all intents and purposes, consistent with the zoning bylaws, save and except for a 2-foot variance on the frontage of each one. The lot areas exceed the zoning requirement for lot area. The lots are consistent in terms of their appearance with the other lots on the street, save and except for the depth of them, which, as I mentioned, was done deliberately to avoid the unnecessary removal of trees within a woodlot. As Mr. Thiessen described, there is a piece of property that was acquired from Mountain View for a nominal amount, the purpose of which was to maintain it in conservation. These lots are located quite far from that piece of property, which is at the rear of the lot. So, the lot configuration was deliberate with respect to the removal of trees. The second thing that I'll just put a finer point on, if I can, is with respect to the servicing of these lots. As Mr. Thiessen anticipated, there is a significant cost associated with that. The developer will be responsible for that cost. And not only will he be required to enter into a development agreement and post securities to make sure that those services are installed, but before the lots are actually created and before they become separate and conveyable, the services actually have to be in the ground. So there's really no risk to the town of granting a severance with the conditions they have in terms of making sure that those services get installed. So that's what I have for you in terms of clarification. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Anything from the committee members?
Yeah, I just have a question kind of on the L-shaped lot, right? I mean, I guess the purpose of it, instead of doing anything else with that land down the road, at this point, there's only part 1, 2, and 3, and that's it, right? That's what this is about today.
Through the chair to the member, there are no plans or designs to develop this property further. Okay. Perhaps the town can put a point on this, but not only is there an intent not to cut down trees in order to create these lots in a deep way, there's policies that are restrictive to the further development of these lands that wouldn't prevent that, or that wouldn't permit that, sorry.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Could you clarify for me what was included in the tree survey? What was the conclusion? You touched on that kind of quickly in your opening, but I wanted to come back to that as well. How does it relate to the consent?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. There was a tree survey done to inventory the trees in the area where they might be impacted by the development. That is the creation of the new lots and the relocation of the existing driveway to the house. It concluded that there was there were 6 trees that may be impacted. Some are more likely than others, but there were 6 trees that may be impacted by this development. So in order to compensate for that, there was a planting plan of various native trees that's proposed to be implemented on the retained parcel. That's part 3, where the existing dwelling is. And the developer will be required to post securities and enter into a development agreement to make sure that enhancement plan is implemented.
Okay. Actually, I think you had addressed my questions as well as the L-shaped bit from my friend over here. Maybe I'll just turn to the town. Is there anything to comment on with which that was raised? I just wanted to invite any remaining comments from Mr. Kernahan or the committee based on what was raised just now.
Mr. Chair, did you want me to try to address some of the other comments from Mr. Thiessen?
Yes.
Okay. So we did confirm that the servicing would be 100% developer responsibility. I know you mentioned about capital gains a number of times. That's really not something that the town is involved in. That's really between a resident and Revenue Canada. So that's not something that we're part of. And your comments about the parcels not being consistent with a neighborhood. In terms of this location, it's at the very edge of the urban boundary. You're outside, this parcel's in. It's a little bit separated from the other residential uses on Lookout Street because we've got the bell tower in between. So we've got kind of an area of nothing. And then new development further south. It was actually thought that it's advantageous in a way by providing a bit of a buffer for your property at the just outside the urban boundary by keeping the larger parcel and the trade area and the existing dwelling, and having the new lots that are more of a modern standard in terms of their size, because they can have town services and not septic systems, and they are in the urban area, away from you further south, so that they're more consistent with the new development that's happened to the south. And the other thing too is that when we talk about being consistent with the neighborhood, it's not the same as, like, that's not the definition of consistent. It means, can it exist in harmony with? And it's our opinion that these 2 lots can. There was a question in writing as well about whether these 2 lots could be used for townhouses. I can confirm that the zoning would not permit that without going through another similar process such as this. So a zoning bylaw amendment would be required to allow for townhouses on these lots. And I would expect that they'd be very small to accommodate townhouses. The question about the Conservation Authority and whether permits are required. As part of this process, Conservation Authority was circulated the applications. They also attended the pre-consultation meeting and confirmed that the area that they're concerned about is the slope in the back, and that these new lots are very far away from that, so they had no concerns. No other permissions are required for them to create these 2 lots. And the other thing maybe I'll just address briefly is the notice. And it is very, difficult for average people to read these notices. They're legally worded. They have to meet all the requirements of the Planning Act. It's a legal process, and so all the things that have to go on the notice are very legal, unfortunately. And that's the requirement that we have to meet. But what the notice does do is that it tells you that something's happening and who to get in touch with for more information. So I know it doesn't help you a whole lot in this situation, but we're always available to you. You can come to the counter, you can call, you can email, and we're happy to provide information and help you troubleshoot where to find things. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful comments as well. I had a comment on your neighborhood comment. I want to ask the committee as well. But when I think about neighborhood, and this is something that comes up all the time, what's neighborhood? What's compatible? All the time we hear this at the committee. It's a big kind of question. It really goes to the core of some of the issues, and more so on the variances that we'll come to as well as the next kind of piece to this. But neighborhood and character doesn't mean exactly what's next door. It doesn't mean your neighbor. Doesn't mean necessarily the bell towers or even just down the street on Lookout. To me, it means the area that you kind of drive through, the area maybe you walk your dog in or you kind of participate in. So to me, the neighborhood includes some of the new, or not so new anymore, the Mountain View construction, the other houses a bit further down Lookout. The neighborhood's a bit broader. So I just want to kind of put that out there in terms of the context, at least that I consider to be a neighborhood when you're considering character, when you're considering looking at it. There may be certain properties, certain features that are different between different lots, but it's a bit bigger than the, what you can see from your front lawn kind of thing. So I just wanted to kind of note that as a comment, which was triggered by something Ms. LaRocque said, which was very helpful as well. Anything else to ask or comment?
I'm just curious, part 3, what would be the zoning for that? Is it the same as the other two part plans? I guess my question would be, can they put a townhouse on there now?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, the zoning does not permit that. The zoning is R1 on all 3 parts.
Thank you. And just the other question I had was, when did the sign go up for the public notice? Do you know?
I can, through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer that. It was December 27th.
Okay.
I personally did it.
I appreciate it's not ideal timing, given the holidays and everything, but there is a requirement of the Planning Act to provide notice. I believe you have to send a photo in as well to prove that was done. So there are some steps. So not imperfect with the holidays, but that's the statutory kind of requirement as well. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, anything else to cover? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kernahan. Are there any emails or other comments that have been received?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm it is 5:18 p.m. and we have not received any emails, and therefore looking for a motion to close the public portion of the meeting and move to your committee input.
Motion to close the public portion?
I second.
Okay, so that closes the public portion. So opportunity for committee debate. I have one kind of technical question that I may need to ask, but anything from you guys?
No, my questions have all been answered, so I feel comfortable with what I've read, with the comments from Ms. LaRocque, which really kind of cleared up a few things. And again, Mr. Thiessen, thank you for your comments.
I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. So again, Ms. LaRocque, I've had a lot of these kind of questions today, but looked at this very closely. I had a question about the conditions. There's 2 conditions that are similar, and there's probably a reason, but I don't understand it very clearly. And these relate to the condition associated with entering a development agreement. On my sheet, I don't know if you have the same one, but they're numbered 3 and 4. So satisfaction of the Director of Community Development and Planning. One speaks with entering a development agreement with the town to ensure all are you going to, okay, I'll pause for a second, so Ms. LeGros is going to give you a copy that I'm reading from, and we can follow it together. So I'm looking at the bottom, conditions 3 and 4 listed there. One talks about development agreement with the town. The next one starts the same way. So the first one seems to say, ensure that all recommendations of the EIS and Woodland Enhancement Plan are implemented to the satisfaction of the director. And the second one says, enter a development agreement that includes the following clause. I thought that would maybe be in the development agreement with the town, or is there some other purpose that's being served? Or am I misunderstanding what's happening here?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
condition number 3 was written by town staff. Condition number 4 was provided by Niagara Region environmental staff. And given that it referenced the plan that they reviewed and approved, we kept it in.
Oh, I see, okay, so it came from 2 different sources, and you didn't want
That's
to
right.
edit their condition that they asked for?
That's right.
Or merge them, okay, all right, now I understand. They're not in conflict, though, because they can both be included. Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments based on that or anything else? Okay. So I did look at the consent application, and looked at the materials very carefully, considered the property itself, looked through staff's comments, read all the reports, including the more technical reports as well, because I was quite interested in that. In my view, it does satisfy the tests under the Planning Act to allow for the consent. Part of the test is, there's a number of kind of conditions outlined in the staff report or considerations under the official plan. It also considers whether a plan of subdivision would be appropriate in the alternative, which doesn't make sense in this instance. In my view, the consent is an efficient use of land. It is in the urban boundary. It can be serviced. There is an understanding that there would be modest intensification in these kinds of areas. So I think there is a very lengthy list of conditions, again, which I've gone through. I think all of the items that are concerned or that have been raised have been carefully kind of reviewed for that reason, and will be implemented through the conditions. So those are my thoughts on the consent. I welcome any other comments, or we can go to vote if there aren't any.
Well said.
Okay. Do we still want to read out all? Maybe we should make sure we have everything right. It's okay. So go ahead. Someone wants to read the motion.
Okay. So files B1 2026P and B2 2026P. 1617 Lookout Street, Pelham. The application for consent, partial discharge of mortgage on each lot, convey 741.1 square meters of land, Part 1 and Part 2 for future construction of single detached dwelling on each lot are hereby granted. The above decisions are subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Number 1, individually service Parts 1, 2, and 3 with its own water and sanitary connections, completed before consent and at the applicant's cost, and locate cards to be provided to the town once work is complete. Obtain a driveway access and culvert permit from the town for the construction of a new driveway or any modifications to existing driveways entrance in accordance with the town standards. The applicant shall bear all costs associated. Number 3, confirm that no existing utilities currently cross the proposed new property lines. Any conflicts must be removed or relocated at the applicant's expense. Number 4, submit an overall lot grading and drainage plan with no negative impacts on the neighboring properties. Number 5, any removal of town-owned trees must comply with the town's tree maintenance policy. Number 6, a development agreement is required to implement the approved servicing strategy. These conditions are to the satisfactory of the Director of Community Planning and Development. Number 1, the applicant must acknowledge the paid development charges and parkland cash in lieu and sign the town's standard memorandum of understanding. Number 2, enter into a development agreement with the town, including a warning clause noting proximity to industrial lands and potential noise, odor, dust. Number 3, enter into a development agreement with the town to ensure all recommendations of the environmental impact study and the woodland enhancement plan are implemented. Number 4, enter into a development agreement with the town, including a clause for Part 3 to be registered on title that the approved woodland enhancement plan is to be implemented. Number 5, any unused portions of the existing asphalt driveways, parking areas, are Parts 1 and 2 must be removed. Number 6, obtain demolition permits and remove the existing detached garage to the satisfaction of the CBO. Excuse me. To the satisfaction of the Niagara region. The existing private septic system on Part 3 must be properly decommissioned. To the satisfaction of the Niagara Escarpment Commission, a development plan from the NEC is required prior to development. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer. 1, provide a registrable legal description and deposited reference plan. Number 2, provide final certification fee of $454. These decisions are based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with the town official plan, the regional policy plan, and the provincial planning statement, town zoning bylaw. These decisions are rendered having regards to Section 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act. The committee considered all written and oral submissions and finds that subject to the conditions, the applications meet planning criteria, are consistent, and comply with provincial, regional, and town planning policies. That's it. That was a good list.
Okay. I'll second that. And then do we need a vote as well? Vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that concludes the consent portion of these files. Then we will consider the minor variances collectively.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so again, they're going to be presented, the two files in the one presentation. So for files A2 2026P and A3 2026P, again relating to 1617 Lookout Street being parts 1 and 2 on the sketch. The subject parcels shown as parts 1 and 2 are located on the east side of Lookout Street, being part lot 3, concession 6, part 1 on 59R 12679, known municipally as 1617 Lookout Street. Alex, if I could ask you to continue. Alex?
The application seeks relief for each application from section 6.1.2 minimum lot frontage to permit a minimum lot frontage of 14.5 meters, whereas 15 meters is required. To date, the following comments have been received. Refer to consent applications B1 2026P and B2 2026P. Minor variance test 1. The variance is minor in nature. Yes, the variance involves a modest 0.5 meter reduction in required lot frontage. This small deviation does not affect the overall lot configuration, neighborhood character, or the ability of parts 1 and 2 to accommodate single detached dwellings. Both lots remain fully suitable for residential development, and the variances are both minor in scale and impact. Test 2. Is a variance desirable for the development or use of land? Yes, the proposed lot frontages can accommodate all required setbacks, parking, access, and servicing. It enables efficient land division while maintaining proper lot proportions and ensuring compatibility with existing residential uses on Lookout Street. 3. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Yes, despite the slight reduction in frontage, Part 1 and 2 still provide sufficient width for building placements, access, servicing, and compatibility. Both lots can support residential developments that meet all other zoning requirements. Test 4. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Yes, the minor frontage reductions support low-density, compatible residential developments without causing overdevelopment or negative impacts. It enables orderly use of serviced land consistent with urban living area designation. Based on the analysis, staff is of the opinion the variances are minor in nature, conform to the general policies and intent of both official plan and zoning bylaw, and are appropriate for the development and use of land. Planning staff recommend that applications number A2 2026P and A3 2026P be approved subject to the following conditions. Approval of the minor variance application are subject to consent files B1 2026P and B2 2026P obtaining final approval.
Okay. Thank you from the two of you. I've lost my place. Just give me one moment. Okay, so thank you for that presentation. We're now going to go through a similar process, but we're going to only be speaking about the variance. So the variance being the half-meter change. So I invite Mr. Kernahan to speak to the variance specifically, and then Mr. Thiessen, if you'd like to speak, or anybody else, of course, you're welcome to as well in relation to the variances.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have anything to add to this with respect to this application. Again, staff have been very thorough in their report. I'm here to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions?
Any particular reason for the half-meter variance?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a very good point. The reason why the full 15 meters can't be achieved for these lots is because there is a need to provide some space for access and a driveway on the south side of the existing residence. So because of the dimensions between that residence and the southerly lot line, when you leave some space for access to the rear yard there, you come up with a slightly smaller than what's required frontage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question, because I had made a different assumption with the need for the variance or the rationale for it. So thank you. I don't have any additional questions. Yeah, thank you. Anything else? No?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Thiessen?
Yeah, the other lots in the neighborhood are all at least 20 meters wide. 1613, 1611. My property's 30 meters wide, 33. I don't see why we need to accept the variance on this property. It should be 15 or more, so I'm thinking 25 meters and make two properties there rather than one. Than two small properties which do not, I disagree with what you're saying. It does not fit with the neighborhood. According to my definition and according to my neighborhood's definition, should be two lots rather than three. Otherwise looks like fait accompli anyways. So whether you accept my comments or not, that's what I believe shouldn't be accepting any 15-meter lot here. And all my other comments, I'm wondering if they're going to be answered in writing.
So we do provide meeting minutes. When you refer to...
My questions in writing, whether it's the developer or you or somebody.
Well,
Review that with the neighborhood, even though you make a decision here. It doesn't matter anymore, but I'd like to see everything in writing.
let me kind of address these kind of in parts, and I'll turn to Ms. LaRocque for a response to this as well.
18
Sorry,
points there.
I appreciate that.
Anyways, I just don't agree with 15 meters. And I think the rest of my neighborhood is the same feeling as I am. I haven't spoken to everybody, but I mean, hang out at Christmas every year, so they're
I
pretty
understand.
uniform on these issues. So I don't agree with the 15 meters.
I understand. So just to provide some clarity, the standard is 15 meters. The zoning provides 15 meters.
Less than 15 meters. okay?
I
Let me
see.
put it that
Okay.
way. 20 meters would be better, 25 would be better, then you'd have two nice equal
Right.
lots which are compatible with the rest of the neighborhood, and the rest of the neighborhood would be happy with.
I see. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Okay, and just to, maybe I can ask Mr. Rock one question, and then you can add to it if you want to add to other pieces here as well. But is the entire, is the stretch of Lookout, is this stretch, when I say stretch, I mean, yeah, Lookout down to Marlene, is that the name of the street? Marlene Street, is it the name of the street? I'm thinking of a different one. Boulevard. Is that all 15 meter? Is the entire zone 15 meter frontage requirement? Is there anything distinct about, these lots kind of in this area?
Mr. Chair, I guess the real difference here between lots that were previously approved and today is that we have a new zoning bylaw. So we have a 2022 zoning bylaw, and it's more modern in terms of its requirements. And that's something that's happened across the province. There's been a lot of direction coming from the province that municipalities are supposed to allow for infill and intensification and redevelopment, so more residential uses on the same parcels that used to permit less, and make really good use of sewer and water and all the expensive things that we
That
all
he's
pay
paying
for. Well, and we all pay for maintenance of a lot of this stuff, right, with our taxes. So the idea is to get more people, make better, more efficient use of land, and our 2022 zoning bylaw reflects that. So lot sizes are less. And that's why the minimum requirement is now 15 meters. Back when
But
the
it
other,
doesn't fit with the nature of the neighborhood, right? You can't argue with that. We have every house from Marlene Stewart to where I live is more than 20 meters, more.
So I
They don't fit. I mean,
I appreciate that.
That's the standard that I go by. I don't, what the regulation is, doesn't really matter that much. It's, you're deciding on something that doesn't fit with the neighborhood.
and I
The whole Lookout development is the same, right? You have all those houses north of Marlene Stewart have bigger properties, and the ones south of Brewerton, say, those ones are the townhouse area, and I just don't see why it should be different here.
I appreciate that comment, and there's no universal view on how a neighborhood should look or should change over time. But some part of the test,
Right? I mean,
but a part of the test that we look at is what is the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? What is the intent and purpose of the official plan? So we're assessing this, and when I look at the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, it's very similar to what Ms. LaRoche just described, which is the province has told us, and it's found its way into these documents, that you have to intensify. You can't build like you used to build 20, 30, 40 years ago, even 10 years ago. You have to do things
Pelham's a big.
that maybe are less desirable for people. I understand. I am very sensitive to the comment you're making. It's different. It's a change. I don't think there's, in a lot of ways, I agree with your view that some places maybe should have 20 meter wide width lots. But the facts are that as of right, you're permitted a 15 meter lot here. And the question this committee's deciding is whether or not you can reduce that to 14 and a half meters, so a couple feet less. Whether or not you can go from 15 to 14 and a half. That's the question before us. The question before us isn't whether or not this lot should be 20 meters. We can't answer that question. That's not what's before the committee.
What the question is whether it goes below less than 15, right? That's the question you're facing right now, to do less
Yes.
than 15. So I disagree with going less than 15. And I think
I
the
understand.
neighborhood would agree with me.
I understand.
And I think he's going to have to pay capital gains tax if he goes less than 15. Okay?
Good.
So,
Okay, thank you.
mine.
Okay. Is there any, I don't think there would be anybody else online, but we should probably check that.
So through you, Mr. Chair, do you want me to go ahead? Okay. It is 5:39 PM, and we have not received any emails, and looking for a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Motion to close?
Second?
Okay, so that closes the public meeting. Any debate on the committee? Any comments?
No, I think it's, what they're asking us to talk about here today is very simple. We're talking about 1.5 feet, and that's all I needed to hear, so I'm good.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said my what I was going to say a few minutes ago. I commented. I think it's very modest, imperceptible. If this was built as of right, unlikely that someone could see the variance, could see the distance. So I think it satisfies all 4 aspects of the test, and that's ultimately what's before the committee. We can't decide other things. We decide whether or not this satisfies the 4 tests for minor variance, and I think it does. So I support it for that reason, on both lots, on both applications, of course. Okay, should we vote? Yeah, go ahead.
So files A2-2026P and A3-2026P, 1617 Lookout Street, Pelham, parts 1 and 2 on sketch. Applications are made for minor variance of section 6.1.2 minimum lot frontage to permit a minimum lot frontage of 14.5 meters on each lot, and the applications have been granted. The reasons for this are, number 1, the variances are minor in nature as the reduction in lot frontages represents a modest 0.5 meter deviation from the R1 zone requirement for single detached dwellings. Number 2, intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. Number 3, intent of the official plan is maintained. Number 4, the proposals are desirable for the land as proposed lot frontages remain sufficient to accommodate compliant setback, parking, access, and servicing without constraint. Number 5, the applications are granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. And number 6, the Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act tests for the minor variance. The conditions are, number 1, that the minor variances are subject to consent file numbers B1-2026P and B2-2026P, obtaining final approval.
Okay, I'll second that. And I think we need a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes from me as well. Okay, so that concludes that item. So the variances have been approved on those 2 files. I think we have minutes for approval, October 6th and November 3rd. Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve?
Sorry, seconded.
Okay, so that's carried. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
And I'll second that.
Okay, all right, we're all done. Thank you.